Hello, everybody. This is David Chavez. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and welcome to the show. Hey, I want to tell you a little bit about some of the events we have coming up because there's some great things. Actually, tomorrow, I will be in Denver, Colorado with Ted Servata. We will be doing a scaling up workshop that'll be in Denver, Colorado. Pretty much have this registered already, so not sure if you can go, but if you can, shoot us an email and we'll see if we can fit you in. Then on the 26th, we have a webinar about strategic pricing and profit. That'll be done by one of our scaling up coaches, Warren Sager. He'll be talking about the complications of pricing and how to really set pricing to get a good profit out of it. And then on October 15th, we'll be doing another scaling up workshop. I'll be doing this one by myself in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on October the 15th. So we welcome you to any of these events. Please get on our website at assuredstrategy.com and they'll fill you in. But let me introduce our guest today, because that's why you come to the show, is not to listen to me talk about our events, but to have something to talk about and listen to that may be of interest to you. So this is my partner, Keyne Petkovic. So Keyne, say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
And why
Nice
don't you
to be
share
here.
with everybody a little bit about your role here at Assured Strategy?
Yeah, sure. First met David when he was the executive coach for the company that I was working at the time, and he implemented scaling up within our organization. That was back in 2014. So in 2015, we started talking about collaborating, and my role is really focusing on the people side and supporting the coaches. My background is not only in operational, leadership roles, but also I'm a therapist by training. So David and I really partnered up because we have different strengths, and together we are able to talk about a variety of different things that happen in organizations. And my focus is on the people side.
Okay, thank you, Kane. So Kane and I have been working together quite a while, and she's been pretty instrumental in developing a lot of the people side of our business, along with following what Scaling Up teaches. And then we have a couple of guests. These are people who work at a client of ours. And the first one I wanted to introduce, just because she is just freaking amazing. Since the first time I met her, I was just like overwhelmed by like this lady is one of the most organized people that I've ever met in my life. So, Ashley, say hello to everybody.
Thank you, David. Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So, Ashley, tell us your role at the organization and what you do actually do. So, don't just tell the role, tell a little bit about what you do and in the organization.
So currently, I act as the executive assistant to our CEO, Debbie Davis. Basically, it kind of just means I wear a lot of hats. I'm her right hand, her confidant. I put out a lot of fires. I'm kind of the barrier to Debbie's office a lot of times. A lot of administrative work, but most recently, I actually created an administrative department here at Scott Manufacturing because it was a department that we were greatly lacking, and there was a lot of people kind of doing a little this and a little that, and I recognize the gap. So I'm currently overseeing the administrative department, and we have a couple of admins that we've recently hired. And in 2 weeks, my title actually changes to chief of staff, which I'm really excited about. And I just hired my EA and the EA for the rest of the executive team. So in 2 weeks, I will officially be on the executive team as chief of staff, doing largely a lot of the things that I have already been doing, but just officially, that's my title now. So overseeing a lot of bigger scale initiatives, projects, as well as I'm going to be overseeing the new administrative department. So a lot of things I was already doing, but they say you never get promoted to a job that you weren't already doing. So I'm excited about it though.
I'm excited for you because I've known you for a little while, and I actually pulled you aside one sometime in there, and I said to you, like, you are the most amazing executive assistant I've ever seen, because I think a lot of people think executive assistant is just getting them coffee or scheduling meetings, and that is so far from what an executive system assistant really does. most executive assistants I know have degrees. They're
Yep.
responsible for a lot in the company, and they're really very good at project management and just making sure stuff gets done and keeps moving through the organization. And so you really embraced that and really took charge of things like that when you came in and really helped Debbie be a better CEO, if you
Yeah.
will. And so I just want to recognize you for that because I think that it's amazing when I see you and how you work and how you really were an executive assistant and you deserve the chief, what was it again, the title?
Chief of staff. It was actually
Chief of
Ted
staff.
Sarvada's suggestion.
Yeah. No, I think you deserve that title. So that's great that, and I'm glad to hear that. LeiLani,
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you.
Okay, and LeiLani is the sales leader. She's the vice president of sales. Am I right on the title?
Executive Vice President of Sales.
We do not want to forget the E. Come on.
Don't forget
It's
that.
so hard to get that. It's so hard to get that. You don't want to forget that one.
It's so
Okay.
funny. Yes, you say that because I always debate on should I include the other initials with my name or not that I have earned. And I'm like, I paid a lot of money for these initials. My MBA is what I'm referring to. Should I include
Exactly.
it or not? But most of the time I don't. I stay humble.
Okay. Well, I don't think there's anything a matter with telling people so that because first impressions count. So I think it's great that you tell people. But I was so excited when you came on because you came on about a year ago. Am I right?
Yes, 1 year and 3 months now.
Okay, because I get fuzzy on dates after a while, and why don't you share with people what you have done and what you do at the company?
Sure. So, what I've done is really put the sales department together because it wasn't really together prior to me getting here. We had, sales people here that handled mostly any RFQ requests that came in and whatnot, but there was not a solid sales department. So,
Yeah.
most of what I have been doing thus far is putting together a lot of processes, putting together a sales playbook, putting together what's now known as the Scott Sales Logic, and
Mhm.
training the sales team on just a different class of sales that they're not accustomed to. So that has been my focus thus far.
Nice.
Okay, that's great. And I appreciate you both being on today. And so the reason all these ladies are on with me today, my partner and then LeiLani and Ashley both, they're here because we actually did a what we call intensive workshop with their team, the executive team. And Kane, why don't you share with the audience what an intense executive workshop is?
Sure. So often when we're working with executive teams, we find that they're starting to get better at healthy conflict and leaning into uncomfortable conversations and learning to trust each other so that they can have more authentic debates around things that need to happen in the organization and the decisions that need to be made. But at some point, usually the executive team begins to plateau and they reach a glass ceiling where it's hard for them as a group, as a collective, to get into actually another layer of deeper authenticity, deeper, vulnerability, deeper honesty. And so the intensive is designed to take an executive team into a 2-day experience where at Assured Strategy, we're walking them through a very specific set of exercises that we're facilitating in order to help them get past this ceiling and actually be able to leave the 2 days having deeper and more honest conversations so that better decisions can be made so the company can ultimately get better results.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what you're saying is like we go into companies and we most of the executives we work with, we find they're pretty good executives, most of them. And then when we start working with them, they elevate themselves a little bit, and then they sort of plateau again. And when they plateau again, they're looking for the next level to challenge them just a little bit more. And so this intensive was created to challenge them a little bit more. So maybe they can see a little bit more of what they couldn't see before they did this program.
Correct. Because often we all have blind spots and we all have patterns of behaving. And it takes going into some very specific conversations and tools and exercises to be able to open up those blind spots because we're all just, normally operating off our patterns. So yes, we go one step deeper to get that extra layer of honesty in a team.
Okay. And ladies, why would you sign up for this torture? I just have to ask it that way because it pretty much is an intense 2 days, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So why would somebody sign up for this torture? I'm sorry.
Well, I can say that I signed up for it because I felt like it was something that the team really needed.
Mhm.
Um, as Kane mentioned, there was a definite level of false harmony going on. There was a lot that wasn't being said, and there was a lot of pleasantries because people were afraid of hurting feelings. They were afraid of having healthy conflict. They were afraid of having unhealthy conflict. They were just afraid. And so, one thing I love about our executive team is that we are all very willing to step out of our comfort zones for a designated purpose of being vulnerable. And everybody went into um, it with a very genuine spirit and very willing to be open. And while it was, emotionally, mentally exhausting at sometimes, it was for the good of the team. It was for our growth and for our ability to have those conversations with each other. So I know, speaking for myself and a few people I've had conversations with in the team, it was, a little bit of an emotional sacrifice, but for the growth in the future of the team and of Scott.
Yeah. LeiLani, do you have anything to add?
Yes, it was very intense. Is the way I would describe it.
Hey,
Yeah.
goes with the name, right?
Hence the
Yes, go
name,
with the
correct.
name. Like I've been through other leadership programs in my career, but nothing like the intensive. But I wanted to take that plunge to be vulnerable and just go through the entire process, no holds barred, just give it everything I got. So that's what I did. And I'm really happy I did because in the moment it felt like, oh gosh, I'm really vulnerable here. I'm really just opening up this big wide door. But everyone, on the team did the same. So you feel reassurance from that we're all doing the same thing. It's okay. We're in a safe space, and everyone, shared what they felt the need to share in that moment, and everyone gave them acknowledgement. And I do feel like it made us stronger as a team. I know I feel stronger because going into this, there are things I've been through in my life I haven't even processed all the way, but the way the program is designed, and I think us doing the whole timeline of our lives and really taking the time to digest everything, and what have we been through and gone through, and the good times, the hard times, everything in between.
Yeah.
So it, I really felt like I came out of it much stronger than when I went in, because there are a lot of things I had not even processed over the years, because life happens and you just have to keep going. You don't have time to stop and process things. You just have to keep going. So this gave me that chance to digest a lot of things that, I've been through over the years. So it was very good.
Yeah. So we're going to take a break real quick and we will be right back after these messages and we will pick it up on the other side. Thank you very much. Just give us one moment. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. It's the Strategy Sherpa Show. And as you know, those of you who are regular listeners, the show has started out a little bit differently this time. And I wanted to explain to you what I'm doing. So on the Strategy Sherpa Show, we normally talk about to a leader that has made a decision that turned out to be sort of a failure, really. And It didn't go very well for you. And then we talk about what they did, how they were thinking at the time, and then how we fixed it. And so I thought that this would be an appropriate show because for this team, their team was a little stuck, knowing that they weren't talking about the things they needed to talk about. So they asked for a little help in that area. And this was the thing that we suggested to them is this intensive. And so I want to talk a little bit with both of you, and either one of you can talk and answer any of the questions that I have. But I want to ask a few questions, like what were the dynamics going on right before you guys did the intensive experience?
Well, so the team has gradually gotten closer over time since I've only been with the company about a year and a couple of months, and even just in my time I've seen the evolution of the team getting more comfortable with each other. But regarding the false harmony piece, I would say, for example, in something like an executive meeting, we're not holding each other accountable for the things that we say we're going to do. We call them WWWs. We're not holding each other accountable for realistic timelines. There's just a lot of tiptoeing around and walking on eggshells to spare feelings, and it was really hindering our productivity completely, because things aren't getting done. And if someone needs help and they're not asking for help, and you're too afraid to ask them why they're not getting something done, then we're at a standstill. So there was a lot of us being at a standstill when it came to productivity, and it couldn't be at a worse time because we're just booming with growth right now. So this is a time when we really need to be keeping our nose to the grindstone, and just pushing and pushing and pushing. We can't have we can't have idle time, and we were having a lot of idle time because things just weren't getting done. So overall, just a lot of things that weren't being said, and a lot of people not holding each other accountable because they're afraid of the conflict. It might be scary that someone might be offended, or it might be scary that someone may get defensive, or I don't want to hurt their feelings. They're going through a lot right now. It's a lot of just unspoken and resentment building up,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're getting frustrated at this person, but you're also not helping them help themselves.
So what I hear you saying is that you have a lot of grace for each other, and you have so much grace it's creating resentment.
Yes.
Okay, that's a great way of saying it. LeiLani, do you have anything to add? And I was wondering, I was going to add another little thing in there.
Sure.
What were the outcomes that you were hoping to achieve when you went into this? Like taking some of what Ashley said, if you have anything about what were the dynamics going on, but then also what were the outcomes you were hoping to achieve?
Yeah, so I was hoping to get more comfortable with the team and with the company. I am newer to the company as well. I've been here a year and 3 months. So I really wanted to get that closeness with the team. A lot of the executive team have worked together a lot longer than that time frame. So I wanted the opportunity to get closer with the team. That was what I wanted to get out of the intensive experience, which I did.
Okay. So what you wanted to do is you could see that the rest of the team knew each other personally, knew
Yes.
knew about each other, and what you wanted to do is take the opportunity for the 2 days together in this immersed setting and really get to know all your teammates on a different level, personal level as well as professional.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, very
Yes.
good, very good.
One thing I'll add to what Ashley was saying is
Please.
one thing that I did share during the intensive. At times, there are conversations that go on the executive team, and they can be intense, and it is kind of hard to know like when to jump in. I kind of refer to it as a game of double dutch. You're watching this game of double dutch going on, and it kind of equates to the fact that these team members are comfortable with each other. They've worked together a lot longer, and so they're in a deep conversation, and it's kind of hard to, as me as a new person, it was hard for me to find time that when should I jump in on this or not. So the intensive, I was hoping would give me more comfortability to just go ahead and jump in, which it has done. And I make it a point to do that now.
And that's huge. And you probably have had people already say thank you for doing that to you, have you not?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I love it, love it, love it. All right, so let's talk about a couple of things that maybe you guys got out of it that was really important for you. And I'll let you guys decide who's going to go first. But what was really important to you? What's a couple of things that were really important to you?
For me, I'll start. For me, the major thing that was important for me was just getting a comfort level with the company that I was going to make my new career home.
Mhm.
If I can't really connect with the people, connect with the culture, and feel like this is where I belong, then I didn't want to be here. So that's really what I was looking for, that deeper connection. And I did
I love it.
find that. So I'm very happy about the choices I made to come here and be here, remain here, and give it all I got moving forward. So,
Well, I've been there through some of the executive vice presidents that of sales that were before you, and
yeah.
I can tell you, you're a breath of fresh air in the room. And,
Thank you.
and I think that the company is becoming a lot more strategic around selling. So
Yeah.
I really commend you in these areas, and I love how you just said that you wanted to be closer to have that better trust with everyone, because when you start having that trust, you can start to have conversations that are so direct with each other that
Yeah.
people may think you're being rude to each other, but you're not. You're just having a conversation about facts that are going on, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Completely. Yeah.
great. And Ashley, did you have anything you wanted to add?
For me, it was the same thing because I was coming at this from a very unique perspective of being an EA. So not technically an executive. I'm on the team, and I know, my growth is to be about to be promoted to be on the team. So for me, it was also about connecting with them on that level, as contemporaries with, no titles in the room, because as an EA, it's tricky sometimes to have those conversations with them and to kind of understand the hierarchy and not overstep. It's been something that I've struggled with, that I've had some coaching on, is knowing when to challenge and when to be helpful, but also not overstep, the bounds. And so that was a great transition into my new title that I'm going to have, is to kind of get down to the nitty gritty with them as an equal, as a contemporary, and just open up and know them on that level and open up on that level.
Oh, that's great. I love that. Kane, did you have something you wanted to say about these two and how they took this? And
Yeah, I really love Leilani's point that often when we have a new person coming onto a team, it's technically a new team, right? So anytime we have someone coming on or off, the team dynamics shift. And for new executives or new team members, they have catch up to make, right? They're coming into a team culture. And so they don't have years to build that same slow, steady relationship that other team members might have had who have worked together a long time. We have to be able to get executives up to speed with that level of healthy conflict and not artificial harmony as fast as possible so that they can be as effective as possible in their role. So I love the fact that you mentioned that, LeiLani, because I think that is a challenge that we see many of our clients executive teams have, is how to get people integrated fast, right?
Absolutely.
yeah, and I really like how you're saying this, Kane, because I think a lot of teams, and I want to point out something you said right at the beginning. If you have a new member on the team is not the same. And we have a lot of people going, oh, we're just adding one person. And one person changes the whole dynamic of the team. And you really have to go through some exercises to really get them comfortable on the team again. Like LeiLani said, I know she had been through some of these things because she's been in retreats even with me. So she's been exposed to some of these things, but not as in depth as they were at this meeting. This is where we're just focusing on people and relationships, right?
Yep. And the ability to get comfortable with having uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah, no, and you know what? Like this is a great spot where we just end up at a great spot to take a break. And so I'm gonna shut off the conversation right this second, and we're gonna go to a break. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. This is David Chavez. We'll be right back after these messages. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show, and thank you for coming back, everybody. We have LeiLani Thomas and Ashley Schubert. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay, because I know you have to say a P even though there's not one there, right?
So it's actually Schubert with a B.
Schubert. Oh, okay. B. Okay. All right. So I wanted to make sure I said that correctly. All right. So let's go into a little bit more depth. Like, what was the process that we took you guys through? If you could explain a little bit of that.
Mm.
Don't all talk at once. It's like, holy cow, David, that's a blur.
Well, I can say that, aside from things that you wouldn't necessarily look at as adding value to the intensive, things like going to dinner together, just hanging out together, kind of letting your hair down and kind of sinking into the environment of not being in a rigid workspace is, for one. That's the environment was so important. So we really made sure that it was off site and it was at a really beautiful location. And it was just, a lot of kind of roundtable talks. We worked on active listening. We went over, our life experiences and shared, what we were willing to share about things we had gone through personally. Just kind of breaking down who we are and our histories to kind of get an understanding of each other, and understanding our backgrounds. And it kind of opens you up to understand, that everybody has a history, that everybody comes from somewhere, that maybe these people that you thought were perfect maybe aren't, maybe they've gone through some things, overcome some things. So a lot of that, and then just a lot of really great active listening conversations, because something that we struggle with a lot on the team is really, really stopping to listen to what somebody's saying and not interrupting, and really making the effort to understand, and getting clarity on what somebody's saying. So there's no there's no confusion walking away where someone thinks one thing another, because that's another thing that we've struggled with as a team, is not really aligning with what's being said.
Yeah, and Ashley, I love that you're bringing this subject up like at the end here. But I loved all the things that you said about how you worked into this. But really listening is very challenging to do, and you have to actually train yourself to do it, right? Is that a fair comment?
Definitely.
But
It was hard for me. And I felt like I was somebody who was really great at that, but I struggled greatly. And I didn't realize all the little things that I do where I assume what someone's going to say and I finish their sentence for them, all the little things that stop me from really hearing. So yeah, it was great.
yeah, and when we don't listen fully, we end up missing probably something vital that they're probably going to say. And we all make this mistake a little bit because we just get excited sometimes. Sometimes we have our own agendas, but being in that intensive probably really shows you how how much you're really listening, I guess, to say it in the best way that I can. Some of us are listening a little bit better, but all of us struggle a little bit with
Yes.
this, right? Even the people who say they're really good at it. Yeah.
Yep.
I,
Yep.
Yeah.
LeiLani, you have something to say and add.
I do. That brings to mind one of the exercises that we did do during the intensive, which is where we took the piece of paper and folded in half and folded in half again. And by the end, you end up, and close your eyes when you do it. But by the end, we all ended up with our version of a snowflake, is what they looked like. But I loved that exercise because it goes with what we're saying now is everyone interprets things differently as well, which lent to the fact that we all ended up with a different snowflake, even though we were doing the exercise at the same time with one piece of paper. But all of our snowflakes looked different. So
Yeah.
that was a fun exercise.
And that snowflake exercise, it's really valuable to help you understand that people interpret things differently, which you did say, right? And so when we're interpreting things, sometimes we assume somebody understands us,
Yeah.
but what can we do better just to make sure they understand us?
Restate what we're saying.
Yes, that's
Restate
great.
our understanding of what they have said, repeat back to them, so we're all on the same page with it. Active listening. Right.
Have you used it with the team that you lead yet?
Yes, I have.
And isn't it shocking when they repeat it back to you? Sometimes you're like, no, that's not what I said.
Well, yes, especially when you have more than one team member that you're leading and they're so different. Each of them are so different. And so their interpretations are definitely different on everything. So having to make sure that I give the same example in a few different ways to
That's
account
right.
for the different learning styles of the team. So it's fun.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great how you're saying that too. And Kane, did you have anything in particular that they did that you want to add in?
Yeah, I definitely do. So at Assured Strategy, we designed this 2 days with very specific exercises to get the team from point A to point B at the end. And finding out about everyone's individual backgrounds is the first step because we all come from our own stories. We all have our own lens. We all have our own experiences. And all of that is what gives us the lens in which we interact with others through.
Yes.
So we have to get that discovery conversation done, and then when we go into the retreat experience, we're not titles. We're all on the same page. We are all human to human, and then we're taking people through some self awareness regarding where they came from, how they survived some of the dysfunctions or the functional dynamics going on in their childhood, how that impacted their attachment to relationships during conflict, and what their styles are on an executive team of these patterns of development, and how it's playing off on the executive team with their relationships and communication with each other. And then we're having them, teaching them how to have those really uncomfortable conversations and get more comfortable with it because we have built them through this series of exercises. So yeah, there's definitely a very established way in which Assured Strategy takes a team through this experience.
Yeah, and I think that if you're listening to this and you just came onto the radio show, you may be saying, wow, what are these guys talking about? It almost sounds like they're going to be rude to each other. So this isn't negative confrontation. This is actually very, very respectful confrontation between people. And what you're trying to do is make sure you understand each other on a different level. And so I love how you just said that. And ladies, thank you for your input there because I think it was just super valuable. But I have another question for you. Like, how have the dynamics changed since the intensive retreat in the company? Like, what are some of the things each of you have seen? Whoever wants to go for it.
I can say that having returned back from the intensive, one thing I noticed straight away after the first one and the second one is the willingness to have healthy conflict, the willingness to challenge directly. It's we come back from this thing and we just have this rejuvenated spirit and almost love for each other and camaraderie, and we're just so much more open. So immediately straight away the conversations are flowing. You don't see as many people holding back. People are challenging each other in meetings, even in our, conversations, just kind of when you stop by someone's office, just to, shoot the breeze for a little while, we're noticing us utilizing those active listening skills. We printed out the papers that we got and we're using them. We're keeping them with us and we're utilizing them even in personal conversation. It's just opened up the communication piece so much, and it's just really created a levity and it just dropped the fear level, the fear aspect that was hanging over our heads. It was just total elephant in the room, and now it always subsides whenever we come back from these intensives.
Yeah, that's great. And I love how you said that because when you're experiencing that and you're on a team, you feel so connected to the people that you're working with in a different way, and it's so great. I love how you just said that too. LeiLani, what have you experienced so far?
Yes, I have experienced the same, right? I was one of those people that did not jump in. So I would observe everything going on and see the dynamics. And now I am jumping in. So I'm making the effort to jump in, to give my input, even if I think the topic doesn't necessarily pertain to me or the sales department specifically, because I try to stay in my lane, at the same time. Let me stay in the sales lane, not jump into anyone else's lane is the way I took it prior to this. And now I'm like, no, I'm jumping in their lane and I'm being helpful. Right? If you're on the freeway, you can't get to where you're going unless you jump into some of the other lanes sometimes. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I recently had a CEO ask me, why would this accountant or the CFO need to be in this meeting that we're having? And I go, and it was basically a sales meeting, like in your area of responsibility. And I said, because the accountant may ask the stupid question no one else will ask. And he just looked at me and he goes, oh my gosh, I've never thought of it that way.
Uh-huh.
And I go, yeah, because they don't know all the sales lingo. They don't know what it's like to be a salesperson. So they may just ask the naive question that needs to be asked, right? So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, no, I love it. And I love that you're engaging. Well, ladies, all great things have to come to an end. And having you both on the radio show has been a great pleasure for me. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and we just had two incredible people share with us an experience that they went to. And the result for them is a happier engagement in between members and being able to say the things that they really want to say to each other. I think that's a fair way of summing it up, right?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And in a respectful way, not in a disrespectful way. And
Yeah.
so thank you both for joining us. And we really appreciate you being on and sharing your experience with us. We'll be right
Bye.
back. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. All right. Hey, everyone. This is David Chavez. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. And we just had Ashley and LeiLani on the line with us. And they shared some really interesting stuff, Kane. You did an intensive workshop with them and you really helped the team that they're on really focused on having better conversations and deeper conversations. I just wanted you to walk the audience through a little bit about what you did on that to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we have found is that the quality of the conversation impacts the quality of the decision on an executive team. And if you aren't having top decisions, then it's going to impact the performance of the organization and your ability to, grow and scale up your company. So at the end of the day, all of this is focused around the ability to get people out of their patterns of unconscious behaviors that we all developed over time in our life and allow people to get awareness of the head trash or those biases or those patterns that they have, which are not positively contributing to the executive team's ability to really lean into true, honest, authentic debate and conversation.
Yeah, because we have negative patterns and we have positive patterns. And sometimes the negative patterns stop us from getting what we really want or helping the way we really want to help.
Correct. So we have a lot of people tools, obviously, that we work with at Assured Strategy. And so after a while, it becomes apparent that the coach that's the lead with the client is finding that they're at a stuck point. So we need to go much deeper on a very fast and intense way in order to get speed and change with the team as quickly as possible, because change is hard. So what we're trying to do with this experience is really take a team into a very specific, intense change cycle. And we need to find out what their patterns are even before they come, which is why we do that discovery conversation, which I mentioned earlier. And then that's going to allow us insight behind the scenes in terms of where people might be stuck with some of their patterns of, not wanting to hurt someone's feelings or being sensitive or maybe coming in an overly critical way. Just all those different ways that we have of, showing up as a leader in an organization that we're not even really aware of, but people aren't even giving us feedback around it. So once we do that, we're having everybody come together, and then we're taking them through their lifeline as the first exercise, because we need to be human to human, person to person, and understand that we have a shared experience and a shared humanity in the room. Oftentimes, executive teams do not want to say what they really think and feel to each other because of hierarchy in their mind of roles. And what we really want is for that CEO to have a team that is really going to truly have the most honest conversations with them, so that they have their own blind spots and their own, challenging debates happening. And we don't have this artificial harmony, like was mentioned by Ashley. And so when we do that, people begin to understand their history and where they came from. And then we're doing very specific training on how did you survive, or how did you cope, or how did you develop patterns to make it through the different dynamics you've had throughout your life that have served you well, right? Obviously, they're in the room, they're an executive. It served them well. There's a lot of resilience in the room, but often there's also things that have not necessarily served them well, or are now in their way to continue to grow as a leader. Yeah. And so we're going to take them through that self-awareness, and then understand when they have conflict in relationships, what's their pattern of reacting around that to keep themselves safe. Some people want to be able to, lean in, and they feel that it's okay to have conflict. They know that the relationship is secure, and they don't really have a problem speaking their truth.
Yeah, me. But then there's other people who have a real hard time with that, right? And then sometimes people like me, we share too much truth and blast it out on the barf it out on the table. And then there's other people who aren't saying anything that's just as destructive as the barfing on the table, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because when we fear, right, the reaction that someone's going to have if we say what's really on our mind in a respectful way. I love how you keep saying that, right? It's not about destructive conflict. This is about productive conflict. Is that then we know that our pattern exists, so we can be aware of it. And then if others around us know what our pattern is, then they can help us see if it's a blind spot and it's affecting our relationships and our ability to have really true, authentic, more uncomfortable conversations. And so as we go through this exercise, then we begin to understand, well, what is it that really it's going to take for us to slow it down and truly understand the person in front of us? Because we assume that people are like ourselves, right? Often humans are very egocentric, but in fact, everyone's very, very different, and we have different lenses that we're operating in. So what we're doing with that activity is getting people to speak about what they haven't been willing to talk about before. And we do very specific exercises at the end of those 2 days to have them begin to actually talk about the things that they have not wanted to share in a facilitated way that's safe, and break down some of those unconscious fears that keep people from really having the best conversations possible for the sake of the organization's results.
Yeah, and Ted, our partner, Servata, will be doing a web, or he just did a webinar on this, I should say. And but we talk about this in all the scaling up workshops. You just did a webinar not too long ago, didn't you, on some of this?
Yeah, on the psychology of change and goals,
Yep.
right? So this is an example of taking a team through a very quick change cycle, through understanding, how a team is going to go through those change processes. But yeah, that webinar was on how to help your company get goals implemented in the organization by understanding the psychology of change and employees' fears and dynamics around change.
Yeah, and people don't. I think a lot of people they think like, especially entrepreneurs, they're mostly good with change, so they eat change for lunch. But then they have a lot of people on their teams that aren't good at change, and then they get really frustrated when the change isn't happening the way they want it to, and it's because these people have a lot of fear around the change. And the entrepreneur's not dealing with that very well often. And it could be them not saying much, or it could be them saying, oh, this is easy. What are you worried about? Right. So it could be one of these two extremes going on. And then the people are in the middle, like deer in the headlights, just stopping.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think when we're on an executive team, we want to be polite. We want to be socially correct. We want to have, that artificial harmony, and politicking, even if it's got good intentions, just takes us away from efficiently having hard conversations and getting through them fast to get to the other side. We don't have to slow down those conversations because of what everyone's, unconscious patterns and head trash are and fears. So we have to cut through that very quickly if we're going to have quick, dynamic conversations to get those results for a team.
Yeah, it's time to wrap up the show, but I wanted to share with everyone, I was in a conversation this morning with a neighbor here in the building where we're at here in Georgetown, and I'm talking to him, and I'm asking him, well, what's your valuation of your company? And he says to me, I don't know. And I was like, well, have you been on our website? He said yes, and I said, we have a free valuation tool on the website so they could just get on and get their valuation. So like if as far as business owners go, you should always know where your value is at so you know what your company is worth. You never know when you're going to sell it. You never know when you're going to get hit by a bus. You never know when all these things in life can happen. So it's probably as important as your balance sheet. So take a look at that in the resource section. We offer a lot of events and webinars, so please take a look. We have a couple of workshops before the year end. And if you're looking to have a different year end, please look at coming to one of our scaling up workshops. Like I said, we have one in Denver tomorrow, one in Fort Lauderdale on October the 15th, and then in San Antonio on December the 10th. And we'd love to have you. You can register just right on our website there. So Keyne, thank you for joining us. Thank you for bringing some of those members onto the show with us and experiencing what we did today on the Strategy Sherpa Show. This is David Chavez, everybody. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.